A lot of people fail Camp C every year. It's concerning. It's concerning. Hi, so there are a few things that I would like to share with you if you're planning on going to school in China, or if you've already been. These are some things that I wish I knew. I wish I knew that there were other schools other than the school that I went to that were okay for foreigners to go. There are so many options, and at the time I just thought that okay, majority of the Jamaicans are going to this one school. It must be either really good or they have like a nice program, a nice environment, and that's not the case in all situations. Sometimes it's okay to venture out. There's so many other good schools that even my friends went to, and I'm like, wow, I had more options than I thought. And it's all safe. In China, you're okay, you'll be fine. I also wish that our program was a bit more helpful in telling us what we needed to do, the exams that we needed to sit. We were pretty clueless for all of it, and yes, of course, you can do your own research, but it's hard when you're not getting the help that you would need from a specific medical school. So I'd suggest, if you're planning on working in the US, to sit USMLE early on, like in the first probably in the second year or third year. And if you're planning on sitting PLAB, I'd suggest looking up their curriculum and studying for that instead of waiting last minute like many of us. It's really important to get it out of the way, and those exams aren't as hard as they seem, especially early on, especially for USMLE, because in your first 3 years of mid school, the curriculum goes with step 1, so it's easier to sit that time. And so I wish I did that. I wish I did that, honestly, because now I have to think about it now. When pharmacology and all those other biochemistry, they're not in my head right now. Depending on which school you pick, it can either set you up at an advantage or a disadvantage, and that's just a reality that a lot of people might not know. When going to a school overseas, it's very common to encounter language barriers. It was very hard for me, especially in class time, when there would be an English word or something that they mispronounce, or the whole sentence just, I can't comprehend it, or I'd raise my hand and I'd ask a question and they'd look at me crazy and just stare at me, and then they just continue reading from the PowerPoint. Other times it was just reading from the PowerPoints. There were no explanations. We didn't know what we were doing. The topics didn't go in depth. We're just basically scratching the surface, and that was it throughout the whole med school. We weren't getting tests on a weekly basis. We weren't getting like ASCIIs. We didn't go into the hospital and actually see patients, get to practice on them and like have a real conversation. No. Things that you're supposed to do in med school, there are a lot of things that weren't really happening, and at the time I didn't know that there are things that we're missing out on, because it's my first time going to medical school. I didn't know anything about it. All my friends were at the same school, or most of them, so it was our normal until later on when I came back to Jamaica and I realized that, oh my gosh, there is so much that we don't know. And it's concerning. It really is concerning. At my school, they have a set way of marking papers. I think they look out for keywords rather than the actual explanation. So for example, if we get heart failure, they'd have on their PowerPoint their definition of heart failure. If you stray from that, they may not give you full marks, which is weird. It's a bit, considering that there are many other definitions and other things that you can pull from different sources, real medical sources, of course, to make your definition. And so I think that's mostly because of the language barrier and them probably not being able to understand either our handwriting or what we're trying to say, which is, for me, it wasn't very interactive. I didn't feel like I was getting enough hospital time. I wasn't getting tests, as I said before. I was just being read what was on a PowerPoint and expected to know just that piece of information or whatever the PowerPoint has, because we're not getting tested on everything or on a broad base of that topic. It might just be they just ask you for 3 clinical features in the big exam. That's probably the only thing that you get, and so it's very hard to study. it's very hard to study for those type of exams because it's not testing your knowledge. It's not testing your knowledge, and it's sad. I didn't like that, to be honest. We did have clinical classes though, and they would set up time for us to go into the lab building, and they would teach us how to suture for like a couple hours, and that would be it on suturing. Like, we never go back to that. We never sutured again. I think that was in like third year, that one class, that was it. Those lab classes, we did labs on rabbits, mice. I can't apply that now, like that knowledge or whatever we did then. It just didn't, it's not helping now, to be very honest. And so when you're in medical school abroad, specifically the country that I was in, there are 6 years of medical school. So your first 5 years you spend at the school, and that last year you get to go home if you want and do your last year, which is observership, or some people call it internship, where you go home, you choose a grade A or type B hospital, and you stay there for the year, and you kind of shadow the doctors and get some experience. And it was until that moment when I realized, oh my gosh, I am missing out on so much knowledge, like things that they would ask me on word rounds, a simple question, and I couldn't answer. I didn't know the things that I was supposed to know. And that was the case for most of us. It was just then we realized, oh my gosh, like, this isn't it. We're in final year and we can't answer first year questions. We're in final year and we can't answer final year questions. It's very concerning. It's very concerning. And we weren't taught how to study properly. There's a school in the Caribbean, University of the West Indies. I'm not saying they're the best school, but they kind of guide their students along a curriculum of these are topics you need to know before your MBBS final exam. Like, you get OSCEs every, at the end of your rotations, you get quizzes, you get classes, it's more well-rounded. And so when I had to rotate with those kids, like, I was constantly feeling quite done stupid, because what is it that the third years know more than me? Like, it was really bad. And I remember feeling shame the most throughout that last year or last 2 years. Shame, guilt, a lot of internal conflict, and just trying to catch up on the knowledge that I missed out on, and studying with them, because they were very helpful. Like, they did not make me feel like judged, or they were very kind. And so I started following their curriculum. I started following their curriculum and studying what they were studying, and asking them to teach me what I didn't know, basically. So that's how I played catch up, and I don't want it for you. Like, it's the hardest thing ever, transitioning from that country back home. It's really hard. No one talks about it, but it's very hard. It's not impossible, but I think some things could have been avoided. I think I had 2 videos on my channel about like a day in the life of a student at my school. That video got a lot of views, surprisingly, and I think it's just because a lot of people are trying to figure out, like, what my school is about. And so I get flooded with DMs every week. Like, I get at least 2 DMs every week about my school, and it's the same type of questions they're asking me. Is it a good school? Should I go here? What are things that I need to know? What's the dorm like? And it's just a lot, and it's kind of hard to be like, I like to be very personal and like send a voice note or send a message and explain my reasons and like give advice and stuff, but it's kind of hard, to be honest. It's getting overwhelming when and then I have to at the same time monitor what I say, especially on video. So it's just a lot. I kind of wish I couldn't go to UE, University of the West Indies, in the Caribbean, where I'm from, because it was very expensive, and so this was a cheaper option, and I wish I could have afforded to go to that school. I really wish I did. It would make things way easier for me back home, but yeah, it kind of forced me to stop answering DMs, because I was like, damn, like, there's just so much more that I want to say, but I'm unable to. It's just so much more. That's just briefly what, I would say to you. Like, just know going in that, hey, I mean, it's okay, I can choose a next school, I can study in Chinese, I can, these are what you should be doing in med school. You should be getting quizzes, you should be taught the knowledge, you should be given time to study, you should be having a well-rounded schedule, you should know the exams that you're supposed to be sitting, not just for the school, but for like work, like for the future, like USMLE. For us in the Caribbean, if you didn't study in the Caribbean, you'll have to sit CAMC, and that's a big thing now because they don't half-ass their questions. For the home ed school, the questions were just like, what's a tree? What are the things on a tree called? Those things that help trap sunlight. And in CAMC, it's like, what is the chemical of... So can you imagine how hard it is for us to transition back when we're not taught like that? We weren't taught how to study. We weren't given like mind-boggling, challenging questions. And so it's very hard. A lot of people fail CAMC. A lot of people fail CAMC every year. It's concerning. It's concerning. It is. And I'm in the position now where I'm supposed to sit it this year, and I cannot pass internship. I cannot go up a level. Like, I'm an intern now. I cannot, if I don't pass that exam. I don't have 2, 3, 4 years to waste on that exam playing catch up. It's just a lot. And so there's just a lot of pressure for us. We don't get treated the same way as the US students. That's just, obviously they know more, but there is some, how you have racism, you have some schoolism when it comes to that in my country, and it's concerning. For CAMC, you have a part 1 and a part 2, and the dates are unpredictable. Sometimes you may sit part 1 in 2024 and then you won't get a date until 2025 to do part 2, and it's just like, that's already a year of no working. So there's just a lot to think about. It's just so much. But those are just some things that I would wish to tell someone before going to China. I should make a part 2, but this is the introductory video. All right.